As moms of daughters navigating the conversation around sex, dating, marriage, it can be hard. That's why we're helping you at Courageous Girls throughout the curriculum to have these conversations. And one of the things we talk about throughout the years is if you are married, rather than when you are married. Trying to help both moms and girls change the paradigm in the church around marriage being the only option that God has for us and being patient for his timing, as it's a variety of lengths of when we meet our spouses. So today we are going to have a conversation about this very topic with someone I respect dearly, and you probably know yourself, Annie Downs. Annie F. Downs is a New York Times best-selling author. She's a sought-after speaker, successful podcast host of That Sounds Fun. She's also the creator of the Single Purpose League, a community for single women to discover friendship, hope, and a life of purpose. With over 1 million books sold, she's a kindred spirit. She's inviting listeners and readers alike to experience the fulfilled lives with a God who made them on purpose and loves them deeply. Well, so good to have you with us, Annie. This has been something I've been trying to do for years, so I'm just giddy that you're finally here.
It's
So good
such
to
an
have you.
honor, Tara. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, as we're working on helping moms walk with their daughters at every stage of their growing years, we're discipling both moms and their girls at the same time,
Yeah, of
trying to help
course.
them think about their stories and release them and find freedom so that they grow in resiliency, confidence, and courage to walk in what God has for them. We have a big, big God. And the conversations are often around sexuality, marriage, our identity, our wiring, conflict, communication. But the idea of around being a girl who knows she is loved and loves other well and can really step
Yeah.
into the kingdom work that God has for her instead of doing that comparison game that we all do. I want to
Yeah.
start with just your story because you are a courageous girl, Annie.
Oh,
I
thanks.
just love all the ways that you've stepped into being who God's made you to be. Talk about your journey to writing and speaking and leading and what that's looked like for you and your own growing up years.
Yeah. So I'm 45. So I have been doing this job as an author, podcaster, speaker full time for 13 years. This is my 14th year. And so I like to remind people of that because I didn't actually get into this until my 30s. Like in my 20s, I was an elementary school teacher. I taught for 5 years after college, and in that time I was writing a devotional for the high schoolers at our church.
Mm,
And so that's what ended up happening, Tara, is that's what got me started on this whole process of do I want to write books? Is I wrote a Bible study, and at the end of that semester, one of the girls said, "Will you print one more of these and staple it like a book so I can give it to a friend?" And I was like,
love that.
"Like a book, huh?" And so that's really how this whole process started, back in 2000 and that was 2006 when I wrote my first book, so 20 years ago now, which is wild. That's really wild. I'm real time realizing
Having
that
a
was 20
moment.
years
You're like,
ago. Yeah, yeah, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, 20 years ago, I wrote my first book." And so, then it really was this process of where do I go next? What's the next step? And it was not all open doors from there on out. I mean, that book that I wrote, I signed with an agent in 2009,
mhm,
and we got rejected over 40 times. I mean, back when in the '09s when they still mailed you letters of rejection. And so
mm,
I have all of them. I mean, we just got rejected from every publisher. And me and that agent stopped working together, and I thought this whole thing was done. And so it's so important to me. Need it now too to remember that when we
yeah,
create things and build things, it isn't always up and to the right for the whole time. The journey of this is there are successes and failures as the world defines successes and failures. And we just keep going. You keep making what you're called to make, and God keeps opening doors and closing doors. We start things and we stop things here at AFD Inc. all the time. And part of the reason I'm good and able to stop things that are good and start new things and let things work and not work is that from my start, the things I wanted to work didn't always work. And
mm.
so, but now I've been doing this full time for 14 years, and have gotten to write a lot of books and record a lot of episodes of podcasts and travel and speak and tour around, and I'm having a ball. I'm nowhere near quitting. Somebody yesterday, Tara, on my Instagram made a comment about like, "What are you gonna do for the next 10 years? Or you should double how much you're putting into retirement." And I was like, A, the internet, but B, I'm like, "Oh, I've got 1,000 ideas I haven't gotten to do yet. We're just getting started.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be doing this for the next 40 to 50 years." So, I'm on the front 9 of my career of doing this. So, I think there's a lot of different expressions of it, but I feel like I'm just getting started in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I think that's so encouraging for women to hear, particularly because I hear it's too late, like so often,
Sure.
or to those rejections. God must not want me go in that direction. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
maybe not. It's just He's
right.
growing something in us so that when we get there, right, you
Yes,
now can handle a no or a shutdown or something that's not
yes,
growing in the same way. We just reimagine it or
that's
go a
right.
different way. Doesn't mean
A
that God
thing my
messed up.
agent said to me once, this one about 7 years ago, a book came out with that was the exact book I wanted to write. And I saw it and I was like, "Oh, I thought I was gonna write that and someone else wrote that, and oh my gosh," and my agent said, "What does this make possible?" And I have
Hmm.
just carried that question with me into ministry, into dating, into singleness, into New York and Nashville when I was living as a dual citizen between both cities. Like, when things don't go your way, what does that make possible? And when I got rejected in 2009, 2010, what it made possible was for me to move to Scotland for a year and help plant a church. I wouldn't have been able to do that. I can't do that
Wow.
now. I mean, I could. I'd have to quit everything, but I have book contracts and
Yeah.
contracts with That Sounds Fun Network. I mean, I can't walk away today, and I could in 2010. And
Hmm.
so asking what does this make possible has really helped me reshape what I would call failures and closed doors to what else is God doing here, that this is just part of that journey.
So good. What does this make possible? I can feel that in my own journey along the way as well.
Yeah.
It's so good. Well, and I don't mean to transition when you said failure to singleness.
Yeah.
Same, but I do want to talk about when we get disappointed or we're thinking things are taking longer or maybe
Yeah.
this isn't what God had for me.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit, Annie, in terms of the singleness message.
Yeah.
What are the things that are on your heart? I hear you talking about this all over the place, and it is a part of your own story.
Yep.
So maybe start with your own journey, and then we can talk about the
Yeah.
messaging that you're wanting to help the church with.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I said, I'm 45, never been married,
Yeah.
and never had kids. And so this is not at all the story I was writing. This isn't at all what I thought. Like, I joke sometimes, like, go back and tell when people say, "What would you tell your 20-year-old self?" I'm like, "Not this." I would not tell her that she is not married at 45.
Mhm.
And, but what has this made possible? I mean, it has made, I mean, Tara, God has been so much kinder to me than I could ever
Mm.
deserve. I have the
Mm.
most fun life. I have been able to do so much, and I have been lonely a lot, and I've been
Mhm.
disappointed a lot, and I have been worried a lot, and I have been angry with God, and I've felt all of it. But, the stats are so quickly changing. I think it's 40% of the people in the US are unmarried.
Mm.
And in 19 I think I'm gonna give you the stat right, in the '70s, in that census, it was something like 19%.
Oh, wow. Big
And
shift,
so
right?
yeah. And so the way my parents and my friends' parents were raising us in the '80s of, "Here's what'll happen. You'll go to college, you'll maybe get a job, you'll get married, maybe you'll get married and get a job, maybe and then you'll have kids, and then you'll da 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 da." And even the church kinda teaching us, I mean, Tara, this is such a big conversation, but I'm thrilled to have it with you. Even the church teaching us sexual purity means waiting until you're married
Yeah.
actually isn't the right message anymore. It was actually never the right message, but it's particularly not the right message now
Mhm.
because almost half of the US citizens are not getting married. And so
Mm.
if we teach just hang on and don't have sex until you're married, what do we tell the 45-year-olds who never get
Exactly.
married?
Mhm.
Because what I've watched in my peer group are women and men making decisions in their sexual lives in their 40s that they would have never done in their 20s because of things like, "I waited, and
Mm.
what did it matter?" And so the better conversation is sexual purity is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you are either choosing sexual purity as a married person or sexual purity as a single person.
I love that, Annie. I love
Yeah.
that.
And that's the rest of my life. Whether I'm married or single, I am choosing to deny my flesh and choose sexual purity. The difference for my married friends is your sexual purity involves having sex
Yeah,
and
and a
involves your
faithfulness to
relationship.
that sex. Yeah.
That's right,
Mhm.
and inside a marriage covenant.
Mhm.
My sexual purity does not involve sex.
Mm.
And so that's one of the big things to me that I think would have really deeply changed how I experienced singleness in my 20s and 30s, is if
Totally.
I wouldn't have felt like marriage was a finish line I was just trying to get to. And it wasn't just about sex, but that was
Mhm.
such a big story we were told in youth
Mhm.
group was just wait till you're married. Well, just wait till you're married and you and your husband will have a calling together. Well, when you get married, you and your husband will buy a house. Well, when you get married, you'll be a mother. Well, when you get married, you'll be sexually wild and have all these wonderful things
Mhm.
that you don't get to have when you're single. And the reality is, sexual purity is for all of us. Buying a house is for anybody. I mother all the time, even
Yes,
though
you
I am
do.
not a mother.
Mhm.
And I didn't have to wait for a husband to have the calling God has on my life. Now,
Mhm.
I still hope to get married, and I hope when I get married that there is a calling that we share, but I'm running my race. The
Mhm.
scripture, Paul did not say, run the race marked out for you and your spouse. He said, run the race marked out for you.
Amen.
And so there's just this reshaping we get to do as the grown-ups, Tara, and you're
Mhm.
doing that already with Courageous Girls, but we're getting to reshape this conversation and
Mhm.
not make marriage a finish line, but
Yeah.
make it a part of the journey for 60% of the kids we're raising.
I love this, Annie, because even for those that get married, there's such a big disappointment in what it's supposed to fulfill in us as women. It limits
Yes.
what God has called us to. So even this paradigm shift that you're naming, um, it really is helping whatever the story is for us, whether you get
Yeah.
married or you don't get married. That it helps women to step out and say, "Listen to what God's calling you to,
Yes.
and to live a
Yes.
life of purity with in either case."
That's
Love
right,
it.
and it's a real interesting parenting moment for all of us,
Mhm.
and me, not as a mom, but as a part of a village where right now there are kids in their teens and kids in their the preteen that are my friends' kids that are watching me date, and
Yeah,
they
they are.
watch me in relationship, and they're watching what I do, so I'm parenting along with
Mhm.
the parents in a different way, but what we get to do now with this generation is say, you run after God. You pursue Jesus. And what does it look like to become a Proverbs 31 woman, whether Jesus is your husband or you have a husband here on earth? And I'm not one of those like,
Mhm.
I'm not, I don't, and sometimes that gets real cheesy, right? And so
Hmm.
I'm not trying to be cheesy, but scripture is very clear
Mhm.
that we are the bride of Christ.
Mhm.
And therefore, I can be a Proverbs 31 woman right now.
Oh,
And so
love
how
it.
do we teach our daughters and our friends' daughters and the generation behind us how to live in a way that is honest and human, but and will be full of mistakes, but is pursuing to be a godly woman, not just a godly wife or a godly
Mm.
mom.
Mm. So much gold there, Annie. Like, repeat, moms and women listening. Repeat, listen.
You're fine.
Um, as you're talking, I'm thinking about the kind of journey to get to this place where you are here, and you
Yeah.
look back and you go, what has been made possible because my story didn't involve marriage?
Yeah.
What were the pieces like along the way that really helped you get to that settling? I mean, regardless of our circumstances, we're all called to this contentment or to kind
Yeah.
of trust, right, with
Yeah.
God.
That's right.
And so in singleness, that's been one of your journeys. Talk about that
Yeah.
a little bit.
I mean, for all of us, we are wanters as humans. So, like, we ate breakfast, but we want lunch.
Mm.
And so, I think one of the things that really helped me, Tara, is when probably a decade ago now, when I had this kind of zoom out moment and I realized I'm not the only one waiting on something, and I'm not the
Mm.
only one wanting. And so then you kinda look around, and at that point, I'm in my mid-30s, and a lot of my friends that are married are in year 5 to 10 of their marriage, and they've got little kids or medium-sized kids, and I'm listening to them, and they still want things, and they're still not totally satisfied, and a husband and kid I mean, Paul's not kidding, and you
You're not
every
kidding.
one of our women listening who are mothers and wives know this. Paul's not kidding when he says it's actually harder to be married than to be single, and because when you're single, all you're thinking about is yourself,
Mm.
and I haven't been married yet, but I've dated and known that my schedule is not my own when I'm dating someone.
Mhm.
My schedule is my own. I can follow God however I want to when I'm single and not dating because I can do whatever I want.
Mm.
When I'm dating or maturing in relationship, you go like, "Oh, shoot, I was going to, but now he needs me to, blah, blah." And married people, that times a million, I'm sure. And so for me, having that realization, those 2 moments of like, Paul wasn't wrong when he said it's actually a little bit easier to be single, and everyone is wanting, gave me these new eyes for being single of like, "Hey, you're not gonna stop wanting. You're not gonna get all the boxes ticked when you fall in love and get married. In fact, it's gonna be complicated, and it's gonna be challenging, and it's gonna be a whole other sinful human who sees you up close." That isn't easier than me just running my own schedule, Tara. It isn't easier, and so for that really helped me seeing those 2 things, but also never having to let go of, that is still what I want. I still want to have a partner and to be married and to be in that kind of covenant relationship. That is still what I desire, and so I think the thing that helped me the most was walking the last I mean, also, I've been doing this for 25 years. I mean, since I
Lot of
graduated high
practice.
school 27 years ago,
Yeah.
and so for over half my life, 3/5 of my life, I have been wanting to get married.
Mm.
That is a long time to want the same thing and
Mm.
not get it.
Yeah.
And so I've been through every iteration of the feeling. But there are friends of ours listening who've wanted their parents to be healed from a disease that long,
Mhm.
or people who are listening that wanted their children to come to Christ for that long. And so a lot of times, Tara, if I'm speaking and I'm speaking on perseverance, I'll say, raise your hand if you've prayed for something for more than 10 years. And very often the majority of the audience has. And you go
Mm.
like, I bet you have,
Yeah.
because me too. And
Yeah.
so you're catching me 25 years, 27 years in, and really profoundly thankful for the life that I have and still hoping that this isn't the end of the story. Um, but in my 20s, which is where a lot of our courageous girls moms are leading their girls, right? Like through their
Mhm.
teenage years into their 20s, I would have been served if someone would have told me, being single is an option. It isn't
Huge.
actually get married or you're an old maid, or get married
Mm.
or you're left behind, or get like being single is a choice. You could actually choose that too. I think if I'd have known the choice was on the table sooner, because now I know that choice is on the table. Even when I'm dating somebody, I can go, you know what's better than this? No one. No one's better than this. And so I will just be alone. Um, because the challenge is, can you still have intimate, not sexually intimate, but can you still have intimate friendships and relationships? Are you still known? Are you still putting you in a situation where you can be known and loved? This is what we can teach our daughters: how to be good friends, how to not be gossips, how to have intimate friendships by whether they get married or not.
Yeah.
All that is the soup that was my 20s, and figuring out, what does it look like if this keeps not happening? What do you do?
Mm. It's so good because that's the ingredients of Courageous Girls, right? These small groups
Right.
of 6 to 8 moms and daughters walking with each other every month throughout. My groups were 9 years. My youngest is in
Yeah.
10th year as a junior in high school. Um, but being able to have watching each other as women, practicing being known, knowing what friendship with other women is like, and not
Yes.
just all about the dating or the finding the man. But I think you said a powerful, like, just to say it's an option. it
Yeah.
actually it's not because you failed or something's wrong with you, or what are some of the messages that we hear in our head or even maybe
Yep.
get taught from the pulpit? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, very often churches are getting so much better about this, Tara. I mean,
Mhm,
we did a big conversation, a big survey with pastors and singles, and and the overarching reality is that singles want to be seen by their church, and pastors want to see the singles. Here's
mm,
what's true: most of the pastors, not all of them, because I'm 45, so most of them are my age or older, but now we're
mhm,
starting to see young men and women in their 30s and planting churches, and I love it. But pastors my age went to seminary 20 years ago when they were not taught about half their church being single, and they got married at 22. And so
right.
we're asking them to breathe on Mars, and they've never been to Mars. And the
Mhm.
pastors are going, "I've never been to Mars. I didn't know Mars existed. I wasn't trained to teach you at Mars, and I never went to Mars." And we're
Mm,
like, "I'm so mad. I'm leaving this church because they don't teach me how to breathe on Mars." And and so what is taught, so I say all that to say, Tara, it's getting a lot better from the pulpit. I don't know a pastor who isn't recognizing that and the divorce rate, right? And widows to teach only to married people is missing half the people in the room.
absolutely. Mhm,
And so what we are hearing pastors do is really encourage and include singles, particularly if someone that is single in the church will say, "Will you please include us?" And the
mhm,
sentence we encourage our singles to say to the pastors is, "I don't need a sermon, I need a sentence."
mm,
And so we don't need an entire sermon on being single. We just need, so if you're fasting while you're single, instead of sitting at home by yourself, go walk in the park with a friend.
Give
You know,
examples or
that's
options.
right.
Yeah.
We just
Mhm,
need a sentence. We don't need a sermon. And so what we do when we are hearing unhealthy messages, it is, are you trying? What are you doing? Do you even want to get married? Um, uh, it's some that's those are some of the more unhealthy ones that
mm,
happen when you're older. And but a lot of it, Tara, the truth is a lot of the people who are asking unhelpful questions aren't meaning to be unhelpful.
true.
They're not
That's true of all.
unkind.
Mhm,
They just don't know what to ask. So when people ask me at this point, you can imagine, I've gotten asked everything, absolutely everything. Are you single because you're denying your flesh? Are you single because you don't want to get married? Are you single because, I mean,
yeah,
everything, literally everything. And so the unhelpful messages, nobody means it. The reality is the single person gets to choose to have grace with the people who are trying. And
mm,
and so a lot of the unhelpful messages aren't malice and intent. They're just
mm,
someone trying to understand a life they don't know. It's the same, we do it to people when they're grieving, right? We do it to people
yeah,
when we say, you may know the story of our family's life, but my sister and her husband lost a child, my nephew
mm,
TJ, after
mm,
2 months. He had trisomy 18, a life-limiting diagnosis. A question she gets asked a lot is, "Are y'all gonna have more kids or are you gonna try to adopt?" Very normal, kind
mm,
question
mm,
that is really a painful question.
yes.
People don't mean it that way. And so that's what we get to do with the messages too, and what we
Mm,
get to teach our daughters of like, most of the time, people are doing the best they can with the information they have. Not all the time, but most of the time they're trying. And
yeah.
pastors are really trying.
I love your encouragement that we are getting better, and I hope that Courageous Girls is a part of that, just
Yeah.
particularly, as we're making it normal for girls, young girls, to grow up in the church and to say, "It's a choice for me to be single. I'm so curious
Yeah.
what God's gonna do with my life,"
Yeah.
rather than, it has to be a certain way.
That's
And
right.
also the resiliency factor that you keep speaking
Mhm.
to, that every single one of us has places we're waiting,
Yeah.
places that we long for, that we've been hurt and had suffering
Mhm.
in,
Yeah.
and we misunderstand each other. Not all of us
Yes.
have been to each other's stories or experienced
Yes.
one another that way.
Yes.
So I love the grace at which you're taking that.
And I hope it doesn't take, I hope none of our friends listening hear me taking anything away from raising your daughters to be good wives or be good moms. That is, if they desire that, if that's a conversation where that's the desire, I think we cultivate the desires, right? just with the knowledge that you don't get everything you want. And so how do we yeah, weird, right? How do we shape our lives in a way where we can honor our desires and hold the whole truth that you can want something and never get it?
Can I'm gonna take us left field, but I know
No,
I can do this with you and I feel like it's an important piece of the puzzle. It might not fit maybe for our courageous
it's
girls
great.
moms, but more probably just in my clients and over the years is there is a population that doesn't wanna get married because they saw their parents have a terrible marriage or they really are it is a fear factor. Um, and so I'm thinking about that person or that context. I hear it a lot. I mean, even with children too, quite a few, this when you say 40% aren't getting married and having kids, there's a population in there. They're just saying, I don't like what I saw before. I don't want that.
Yes. Yes.
So can you speak to that today at all?
I think it's also one of the reasons we should limit the content we take in
Okay.
because all the murder podcasts, all
Yeah,
the stories about spouses who are
catfishers.
dishonest with each other, all that stuff writes stories in our heads. And so when we are continually taking we've already had our life experience. But
Mhm.
then also when we're taking in all this content about poor marriages, that affects people wanting to try.
Oh, so good.
And so I am very careful about the content I take in because I'm a very independent woman. I've done this by myself for a long time and I can talk myself out of it before I even watch a murder pod or listen to any of that, right? And
Mhm.
so that's one thing I'd say is really protect the content you're taking in because the enemy wants to feed on your fears and wants you to be afraid of everything. Full stop. He wants you to be afraid of everything. Um, but man, I have friends, I'm sure you do too, Taryn, clients that say, "Man, after what I saw, I'm not doing that," or people who've been married before that go, "I am never doing that again." And my encouragement would be, you don't have to. Neither of those groups have to. There is always reward to the risk. There's always reward to the risk, but there's always risk to a reward. And so this is when community involvement and prayer and intercession and having people surround you as you process that. If you decide I'm not going to get married because I love serving God at the speed I'm able to serve God and I love my community. There's a pastor I adore. His name's Ryan Weckenman. He's in Austin, Texas, and he's a single pastor and his whole thing is like I'm single today because I want to be. I like my life. I like the speed I'm able to do ministry. If that's why you're single and you're healthy in it, run. Run as
Mhm.
fast as you can. But my encouragement would be to the people who say, I don't want to get married because of what I saw or what I've experienced or what I've watched on TV. That's worth a counseling appointment to go, is this fear or is this faith allowing me to stay single and me choosing singleness? Because I will tell you, Tara, I've had experiences just like every one of our friends who are dating that if I let that be my last experience, I go, never again. I'm hanging up my
Mm.
jersey. I will not trust. The only person who can take care of me is me.
Yeah.
And it's just not true.
Yeah. The
And
Garden of Eden, right? Genesis
yeah,
3. The only one that can take care of me is me. Mhm.
yes. That is
Mhm.
my I am telling you, if I've got like a a bullseye on my back, it is convince me that I'm better off alone. And
Yeah.
I will convince me out of with fear, convince me with comfort, convince me with pride, convince me with anything that I'll be better alone. And that's how people isolate.
Yeah.
And so to that percent of people that would say, or if you're raising a child and your daughter is saying, I don't ever want to get married, it's worth a deeper conversation of, is she called to that? And the singleness is a gift thing. I think can be used really poorly and can be really messy.
Mm.
It has been a gift for me. I hope
Mhm.
it is not a gift for my whole life, but today it is. About a year ago, Tara, last August, I was working on a project for singles. I was writing something specifically to singles, and it was August. I was hot. I was mad. And I was sitting in a Starbucks and I said to Lord, you know, I don't want to do this. Why'd you ask me to do this? You know, I don't want to do this. And so clearly, Tara, the Lord just said to me, someday this season will change can I squeeze everything out of this?
Mm.
Now, 22-year-old Annie would have said, "That means I'm getting married." That isn't what it means. It means I might get married. It means Jesus could come back, and he will at some point, or I will die at some point. 2 of those 3 are guaranteed.
Some good options
So
there.
yeah, and so what the Lord did for me in that conversation, and I promise I'm gonna tie this together for us, but when the Lord said that to me, it was this moment of me
Mhm.
going, "Oh, I want you to use every day of my singleness, and I don't want to meet the person I'm gonna marry, fall in love, and then suddenly go, 'Shoot, I never told this story, and now I won't be as believable as I was when I was single.'" I wanted God to squeeze every day of my singleness is a gift because this is the way that God can use my life the most.
Mm.
When I get married, that will change, and then I will have different priorities. I will have a different speed. I will have much more laundry to do, and I will have a different he will be able to squeeze my life out differently, and
Mm.
so it is a gift. And for our even for the girls that we're raising as teenagers and as preteens going into their 20s, like, even in high school, singleness is a gift because you get to do a
Yeah,
lot of fun stuff.
exactly. Mhm.
And when God gives you a different story, that's a gift too. And gifts are not always easy. Gifts are not always
Yeah.
fun. And so for me, a lot of it comes back to it's a gift today. And can he squeeze out I can't do this conversation with you the 2 weeks after I get married.
Yeah. You
It's
couldn't,
different.
but it's interesting, Annie, as you're sitting here, everything you're saying, I so resonate with. Now, here's the thing. I'm
Yeah.
47. This is my 25th year anniversary. So I was the
Yeah. Oh,
22-year-old married.
congratulations. Yeah.
And I have 2 daughters. One is single at 19, the other one's 17, has a boyfriend, and so I'm navigating the both and, right? And my 19-year-old is on her track to get her doctorate. She's got a vision. She
Brilliant.
knows where she's going. She's like,
Yes.
dating feels like a sidetrack.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Right? And so in holding both the narratives for them as girls and just fanning the flame. And so everything you're saying of like, I've held the lie of like, you're behind, you're too late. Now,
Mm.
if you look at my life, a lot of women are like, how did you do all of that? But I look
Yeah.
at Annie and I go, well, look at all of the Annie has done. Okay. Right. That's the thing that happens between
Yes.
us. And I go, so there's just been this mantra that the Lord and I have been saying. It was actually during a praxis cohort. I was sitting in the group. I'm one of the oldest in the room.
Yeah.
And I've been used to being one of the younger ones. So it was just this aha. And the Lord said, you're right on time.
That's it.
And you're right on time, but I'm finishing. I'm going to be an empty nester. And so the pace at which I wrote the things I wrote in Courageous Girls, I was in the trenches with
That's
my
right.
girls.
That's right.
And I don't think I would remember or say it the same way. Right.
Well, you certainly would remember year 5 as clearly as you did in year
No,
5.
or the
Yeah, that's
angst that I
exactly
was
right.
holding with a little second
That's right.
grader or the middle school years, and I'd be
That's
more
exactly
like,
right.
"Oh, it's gonna be okay." That's what happens when you're
Yeah.
beyond
Yeah.
the pain. So all the things you're saying of squeezing out whatever that is, I feel like any woman who's listening right now can receive that. But specifically, and even just the language we use around singleness.
Oh, I'm telling you, listen, the idea of, late bloomer, I'm like, "Can we just retire late bloomers?"
Yes, thank you.
Because it's so unfair. You are not a late bloomer in your career, and I'm not a late bloomer in my relationships.
Yeah.
We are on time. And so for our daughters to know, if our daughter doesn't wanna wear makeup until she's 19, she's not a late bloomer. She's on time. So
She's on time.
if I could hold a national press conference
Let's do that.
besides telling people about Jesus, the next thing I would say is retire late bloomer. It is not fair
Mm.
to anyone. It's not fair to anyone. And Terry, you're not a late bloomer in this. The work you have done is insane. You doing that as the years go by is incredible.
Mhm.
And you've raised 2 wonderful children. And so
Yeah.
I think for us to remind each other that we are right on time at what we're supposed to. That will be true when I fall in love and get married. Y'all will say to me, "This isn't too late. You're right on
Yeah.
time." Now,
You're
do I
right
get
on
everything
time.
I want? Will I have 9 kids? No, I will probably not have any because of my age. And that's
Yeah.
okay. That's God's story for me, but I'm not a late bloomer. I'm right
No.
on time.
Yeah. Oh, I love this conversation, Annie. So good. I have one last little question for you,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I'd love you to end with just a word of encouragement, which you might have already done because you just are speaking these truth bombs. I'm loving it. Um, But one of my dearest friends, she's well known, so I'm not going to say her name, but she got married at 60 and she is
Yeah,
loving life. And she is, I mean, she is, but it's funny because we're processing things and she can't do the things that she used to do. I mean, she lived at a really fast pace, all the things
I
you're saying.
know.
And now she's like, he kind of gets in the way. And I'm like, uh-huh. And we have to, even presenting together to do it with someone versus on your own takes way more time and
Mhm,
energy. And there's
mhm.
some fights in there and all of that too.
Yep.
And so the 60-year-old who gets married, she's right on time. It's been
Mhm.
amazing to watch. I sometimes say that to like, I'll be like, I have this friend who was married at 60. Now, at 45, does that feel encouraging or discouraging
Oh,
when people
I'm
give
like,
examples
15
like that?
years? Let's go. I got a lot to do in 15 years. I'm like, "Great." Yeah, no, that's not discouraging at all. I think
Okay.
yeah, no, I love it. That's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I often give that, and then I'm like, "Oh," I walk away going and the coolest thing is she is nurtured. She probably has millions, I'm not joking, of
Yeah.
little people in the world that she has nurtured and mothered,
Yeah,
and in
yeah,
heaven someday, the Lord
yeah.
will show her all the lives, right? And I just so when
And
you
listen,
said that,
the other deeper thing, Tara, that you should your 60-year-old friend has 15 more years of this, than I do. I am so thankful for how I know Jesus
mhm,
because he
it's
has
true.
been my only partner.
That is
And
true.
so every big decision I've made I mean, last October, I went to my 50th state. I went to Vermont. It was my last one. And and I wasn't dating anybody. And as I crossed over, I cried into Vermont. I said,
Mhm.
Jesus, you and me went to all 50 states. No one else
Wow.
went to all 50 states with me except you. And
Mhm,
so there are such gifts that are so profound that I hope our daughters get to hear about of like, there is a profound gift that I am so thankful.
mhm.
I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't do it any different. And I'm sure your 60-year-old friend wouldn't do it any different either. So you
Wouldn't
telling me I could get married at 60, I'm like 15 more years of a partnership with
yeah.
Jesus like this, great. This is, I mean, I am so lucky that this is the life he
Mhm.
handed me.
Yeah. The
I wouldn't do
intimacy
it
is
any
rich.
different.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
this
the
is
intimacy is rich.
it is such a gift, and so
Mhm.
our daughters have this to look forward to. Your
Mhm.
nineteen-year-old gets this right now,
Mhm.
and it is yeah, I wouldn't trade it for
So
anything. I
good.
really wouldn't. If the best man you could have ever dreamed of showed up for me tomorrow, and he was not a sinner, and he had everything, and he was just perfect. And he's the only other person besides Jesus that showed up on earth, and he's perfect. I still wouldn't have wished 20 years
Mm.
back to do it different because of who Jesus has been to me.
Mm. Thank you, Annie. Thanks for being you. Thanks for having courage to just continue to keep in step with the Spirit and where He's
Yeah,
taking you.
thanks.
And
Thanks.
so just leave our moms and women who are
Yeah.
listening with a word of encouragement. I imagine some moms will share this even with their daughters. They'll want their daughters to
Yeah.
listen as well. But what comes to
Yeah.
mind as you want to close and remind them of who they are and who God says He is?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's coming to mind when we're talking about the sexual purity as a lifestyle and none of us are late bloomers and God is writing your story is like this is a long story. And your life hopefully is a long story. And so the chapter you're in right now is just a chapter. And so my encouragement is don't don't write your book based on what the other books are telling you is the right time for a new chapter. You don't go on what TV says, don't go on uh, what culture tells us. But, like, God is writing a unique story for you, and that's what we want. That's actually what we want, and so remember, it's a long game. This is a long life, hopefully, we get with the Lord, and He's gonna bring the right people at the right time and the right opportunities at the right time, and in this world, you will have trouble, but take heart. Jesus has overcome the world, and so it's a long game, and Jesus has overcome.
So good. Amen. Amen. So Annie, where can people find you if they don't
Oh
maybe know who
gosh.
you are or where's your latest and greatest work that you're
Yeah,
on?
Tara, I'm embarrassingly easy to find. It's anniefdowns.com all over the place. F is in fancy. And we just started this year on my podcast on That Sounds Fun. We're doing a whole 18 months along the theme of spiritually stronger. And the
Mhm.
world you can't control, how can you be spiritually stronger? So you can go to spirituallystronger.com as well and kind of learn where we're going to go with the different disciplines. And I
Great.
just really felt at the end of last year this like, we can't control very much, but we can pursue God.
Mm.
And there are some real tools to help us pursue God. And so that's what we're going to do for the next 18 months. So we'd love for everybody to jump in with us too. So I just love the work you're doing and I'm honored to be here today. So thank you for having
Right.
me.
Thank you for being here, Annie.